tell me a little bit about the show here at Metropolitan Community College.
Okay, I'm Tom Noll from the Milwaukee area, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I'm honored to be here at MCC with this show. It's pretty exciting to be in the middle of this gallery surrounded by over 1,000 hours of work, passionate work, painting these portraits of musicians. These are all original oils. I paint the oil portraits on top of acrylic backgrounds for the most part. And I keep very vibrant organic backgrounds as a start point, and I keep that throughout the painting. I paint the realistic figures on top of them for the most part.
Tell me a little bit about your background and how you got up to this point.
Sure. I've always been an artist. As a little kid, I remember my mother signing me up for summer school, and in those days, summer school was for those kids failing, needing extra work to pass, and I didn't understand, boy, I'm supposed to be riding a bike and fishing and stuff like that in the summertime. And I got to the summer school, and it was the first time that somebody was showing me how to draw, how to block out a face to draw it, and I was really excited about it. And I remember that vividly. And so throughout high school, I was always very interested in art. I always excelled. I remember there was an art class, and we were listening to Joe Walsh and the James Gang on a cassette player. Could have been an 8-track player, I'm not sure. And I thought then it'd be really cool to paint a portrait of him someday. And that someday was a month ago. It's been a long time, but it's hanging in the show here. I went to Milwaukee Area Technical College for a 2-year printing and publishing degree, and worked in that field for a while. The bottom fell out of that industry. Guys that were working for 20 years were getting laid off. I ended up working for a few years in some non-creative jobs, let's call it that. And they weren't necessarily dead-end jobs, but I knew it wasn't what I wanted. And I went back to school for another 2 years of the commercial art program. Now, these days it's called graphic arts. So basically I went 4 years to a 2-year school. The commercial art and the printing are really ingrained in each other. Most of the things that you do in graphic design is for printing. So I kind of had a heads up on a lot of the other students. And I was also very focused coming back to school. I knew what hadn't worked for me in the job market. I had a focus as to where I wanted to go. And it wasn't just 2 more years of school, but it was coming back, let's make this happen. And I got one of the better jobs coming out of the college, that 2-year program, through the placement center. There was a t-shirt company, and they were a nationwide company. I was designing t-shirts for them. We were able to do the marketing, the advertising for the company at the same time. So I was art director with them after 6 years. So that was a lot of fun. During that time, I had 2 kids, so I knew I had to pay for braces in college and whatnot. So I wanted something more. I got a job at an advertising agency, and I worked there for 16 years. And I was doing everything. I was a big fish in a small pond. I was doing a little bit of everything, wore a lot of hats, and it was a very good learning experience. I was designing ads, brochures, doing TV commercials, radio spots, hiring models, overseeing photo shoots, and I finally decided that I just wanted something more from that, and a gentleman in our Harley Club owned a restoration firm, and decorative painting, restoration. It was also one of the largest stained glass studios. In fact, they just finished the restoration of St. Peter's Catholic Church in Omaha. So every major city they've got something going on in. And I worked there for 13 years doing basically everything I was doing at the advertising agency, but for a little family-run business, and it was a lot less stress. And during that time, I started finding some time to do some painting for myself, which I'd never really had time to do in the past. And a gentleman asked me to do a Bob Marley painting for him, and after a couple of requests, I finally decided, all right, he's serious, let's figure out how we do this. And so I had the large abstract canvas in the studio, and I decided that was going to be the background for the painting. And I brought him over to the house one night to see where I was at with it, and he had this blank look on his face. I'm like, John, what's wrong? And he informed me that no matter what I was going to charge him for it, he couldn't afford it. So that led me down that thought process of how can he afford it. From that point, I started the thought of making giclée prints. Giclée is a French word for sprayed ink, and I looked into creating digital prints of the artwork. Obviously not at this size. This piece, I believe, was a 25 by 19-inch print, and that kind of started the whole thing off. All these original paintings have giclée prints that I offer for sale, and I do that through my website, through eBay, and for the most part, up to this point, I have not actively marketed the originals. I've been hanging on to all those. So this is kind of an exciting cross point in my career.
So how long have you been, like years-wise, have you been doing this then?
Again, this was the first piece here, and I did this in '06. So it's been 8 years. The majority of these have been in the last 7 years.
Are you still doing the restoration business too, or this is your full-time thing?
In 8 days, it'll be the anniversary of my retirement from the day job. I got to that point where I realized that the day job was getting in the way of making money. So retirement has allowed me to do what I love. I now can paint as much or as little as I want. So that's pretty exciting.
What are your influences? Do you have influences? Other artists or?
Influences. Yeah, I guess I came through a time when I was doing large abstracts, which is how I came about with the background for the Bob Marley and the backgrounds that are prevalent in most of my paintings. So I always liked Jackson Pollock. I loved the spontaneity of the thrown paint on canvases, and most of these canvases start out outside in the backyard. I spread out large canvases and apply paint in areas where I think it's going to have the right movement for the figure that I want to paint on top of it. Sometimes, or most often, I'll paint much larger canvases than what I'm eventually going to need for the painting, and that allows me to take my frame that I'm going to stretch the canvas on and kind of move it around and look to see what area is going to be best for the figure that I'm putting on it. Very similar to somebody picking out a granite countertop for their new kitchen. They have the availability of color and grain. Is it going this way? Is it going that way? And I kind of do that with the paintings, and with me, I think it helps me. I'm very seldom starting with a blank canvas where you're wondering where to even start on it. This whole background is there as I'm going into it, and that energy is there. So the successful painting maintains that energy throughout.
Good. You said you do outdoor work, so do you have a studio that's attached to your house, or do you work from where do you work?
I have a studio in our house, which allows me to get up at 4 in the morning and go down and paint for a couple hours before the sun comes up, before the day gets into its normal routine. that seems to be my creative time, and so it makes sense to have the studio there. I've been asked, do you have a studio downtown where we live, whatever? And, you know, I don't need the overhead, and it's comfortable with again having it in our home. So the only problem with it is that I don't have a beach view, but I'm working on that.
So are you in a city or on an acreage? I noticed some of your photos on your website had you working outdoors, and it looked like there was scenery around.
We live on a cul-de-sac on a dead-end street, and it's a very wooded area. And in our backyard, we see one neighbor, so it's very secluded. It feels really good. I built a waterfall down a 10-foot berm that we have on one side, and with the flip of a switch, I'm transported to Colorado, and it's very comfortable. In fact, as we look around for possible other places to live, we always come back to the fact that we love where we are so much. So that's a little bit of a challenge.
And you said where at in Wisconsin?
We actually live in Waukesha, Wisconsin, which is about 30 miles west of Milwaukee. Milwaukee is right on the Great Lakes, on the western shore of the Great Lakes, which we call the Third Coast. And Waukesha is the hometown of Les Paul, who is the inventor of the electric guitar, the hard-body electric guitar. So music these days would be a bit different without Les Paul. So he's our hometown guy. I'm kind of the hometown Les Paul artist. So I painted a picture of Les Paul. It's hanging here in the show. Les Paul, before he died, actually signed the original painting. And again, I sell prints of that. I also got involved with the Guitar Town public art project that Gibson brought to Waukesha. The Gibson Corporation allowed Waukesha, Wisconsin to have 10-foot tall fiberglass guitars for various artists to paint. And the mayor was getting emails from people saying, Tom Noll needs to be part of this project. And I submitted designs for it and was one of the artists chosen for it. So that was pretty fun. And I've got a print in the show here that shows both sides of that guitar that I painted up. I've got 12 musicians known for playing Les Paul guitars. And it's a very energetic piece, and it's now part of public art on the streets of Waukesha in the summertime. It's got a winter home during the cold months, but that's a new sign of spring in Waukesha is when the big guitars come back out. Last year I was able to paint one of the small playable guitars that Gibson gave to the city. I think there were 16 of them. And after they were painted, they went back to the Gibson Corporation and they outfitted them with strings and pickups, and so they're actual playable guitars. And at the end of the summer, I also got involved in painting a large mural, again, viewed on the public streets, and it touts that Waukesha is a point for guitarists all over the world to come and visit. So.
Have you ever lived other places in the country?
Haven't strayed too far from the Milwaukee area, and Milwaukee is known for, well, it's the birthplace of Harley Davidson, Miller Beer, and it's a big print area in the country. So I've been a pretty happy camper growing up there. But at this point, I would love to expand a little bit and maybe get to warmer climates. After this winter, I think everybody would agree with that. So,
have you had a lot of gallery shows, or?
I've had a number of gallery shows, and most of them have been showing the prints that I make from these. When I started doing the abstract paintings, I had some gallery shows where it was just all large abstracts, 9 by 12 pieces, and large stretched triptychs of the abstracts. With the Guitar Town project, I was involved with a few shows with that, and so locally, I'm very well known in town, and which is again why this is very exciting. This is another nice journey for me to come to Omaha with a trailer full of paintings. I've currently got 56 different paintings, so to pare that down to only 22 to bring here, that was a challenge right off the bat. I think we have a pretty good cross-section of what I do.
Do you have a favorite piece in this show that just is your favorite?
I think the one that was shown on the card, the James Hetfield from Metallica, is a favorite of mine. I've kept the energy of what that band is about, but at the same time that piece has a real tranquility to it. It's very photographic. I probably spent the most time on that piece. I had a photograph to work with that a photographer in Austria allowed me to paint from, and in exchange for that privilege I gave him a print of the #1 print from the limited edition print series that I did. And he in turn got back to me and was just amazed at what I had done with his black and white photo, and has since said, boy, anything you see on my website, let me know. I will give you a high-res image to work from. And as far as copyrights go and all, that's a very nice situation to be in. Probably another piece that's a favorite is David Gilmour from Pink Floyd. There's a composition of him off to the side that it's just got some atmosphere to it that is what Pink Floyd is all about. And that actually is another piece, another photo from that same photographer. So my pieces range from being some very photographic work on top of these abstracts to some that are very painterly, and I try and quit on the painting before I go overboard and paint everything in. A lot of, I think what makes for the energy in my pieces is what isn't painted in. So that's kind of fun.
The piece behind you, the Bob Marley one, is that the original one you did, or
that is the original? Sold? That's the first one.
So he didn't buy it from you?
Well, you can buy it from me.
No, did the person you did it for?
Well, what worked out is when I made the Giclée print of it, then that was perfect for him. #1, he never had the size house to, he didn't have a wall to take on a piece like that. And the smaller print, that's the center of his living room right now. He loves it. So
I saw something on the web page where somebody was remodeling their house, and they kind of, was it built around some of your work?
I've had a few situations like that, actually. There's a gentleman in the Isle of Wight in the UK who has bought 7 prints from me, and I've always corresponded with him. Well, one day I got an email from his wife, and this was all tongue-in-cheek. She is saying, well, Rich is out at sea with his day job. He's going to be gone for 2 weeks, and he's left me this mess of the house, stepping over the remodeling here as we build a Tom Noll wing onto our house. I thought that was pretty funny. And he has given me some suggestions of pieces to do. So I took a photo that he had given me of his house with my prints in frames and superimposed this, I believe it was the Jeff Beck piece that he was asking me to paint. And so I superimposed the idea that I had into that frame and sent it back to him, and that's all he needed to see. He said, yeah, go for that. So,
did you ever, when you went from the commercial world to working for yourself, did you have rough spots, or was it just a smooth transition?
It was a pretty smooth transition because I didn't just quit one thing and go into another. They pretty much overlapped. And again, what was happening is I'd get up at 4 in the morning and go down and paint for a couple of hours on my rock series, and all of a sudden I'd look at my watch and go, oh my gosh, I got to get to work. And then I'd go to work and I'd think about what I had going on at the studio at home all day long, and that was probably the toughest part, to stay focused on what I needed to at the day job. And again, it just took off. This niche that I found with the musician paintings is just so cool. When I finish a painting, there's a whole fan base out there just waiting for it. In fact, often I will get requests for the early number prints from the editions before I've even started painting on the piece. Just the mere mention that I'm going to be doing this musician next, I will get emails saying, all right, I want one, put me down. And they don't even know what it looks like. Often I don't even know what it looks like at that point. So I think that happened with the Paul McCartney. That was the first time when I mentioned I was going to do them, and people said, sign me up. So that's a nice position to be in.
With the print world, is there, I have no idea, is there you as an artist, do you say, okay, I'm going to do this many and I'm going to cut it off, or?
That is my decision as to how many I want to do. My first couple that I did, which are now sold out, I only did 35 of, and that's a very low number for a fine arts print. They kind of range from that up to 700, I think is the highest print amount that I've done. Right now I'm pretty much doing 250. I did a couple of print runs of 60 and those sold out, and near the end of that run I found that people were really scrambling and offering me various amounts to make sure that they got those. So the lower amounts again tend to draw higher values near the end. Well, not necessarily near the end, but throughout. Some cases I like the higher numbers just to get pieces into people's hands. And what's very cool is people will send me photographs after the fact to show me, hey, this is my Stevie Ray Vaughan on the wall. This is how I framed it up. This is how it looks in my house. And on my website, I have a page that shows all these client photos. I call it Art Around the World. And they're from all over the globe. And I've got 314 photos from people at this point that they've sent me. So that is really, that's the full circle of this thing. It really feels good when I can read those emails and see that there's a happy client out there.
I haven't watched it, looked at it really close. Is the Page Plant one here?
It is not.
Okay, I'm a Led Zeppelin fan.
Yeah, so. That was a fun piece to do, and I had a custom order, a custom painting for another Page and Plant from a gentleman, and he sent me some black and white photos of what he thought he wanted to see, and so I redrew those into a nice composition. Did a color pencil sketch, which is what I often do on the beginning stages of a painting. Sent that back to him, and he said, yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for. And so I did a fairly large painting of that. In fact, that's shown on the back side of my 4-panel brochure that I have that show the majority of my prints.
You haven't talked about commissioned work. I mean, do you do commissioned work? And with commissioned work, if somebody commissions you, are you still able to do prints of them, or how's that work?
It's a good question. The Page and Plant was one commission work that I've had. I've had a number of other ones, and when somebody asks for a custom piece, most often they want to be the only one that have that, and so I will work with them and say, you know what, this one does not get prints made of it. This is just for you, and that holds a real spot in their heart. And if somebody was open to me making prints of them, I'm sure we'd work a deal out, towards that end. But for the most part, that's a real personal project to do a custom piece.
Have you done a lot of commission work, or just?
I have, and with the rock series, I've got some real fun pieces that I've done, and some people, are not even. they don't want it to be advertised, let's say. But I've got, I did a meatloaf painting, and I just, what was the one I just did recently? Slash and Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses. That was a fun piece. And again, the client picked out the images that they wanted to see on it, and then I went to work and sketched up a very nice composition showing them both. And again, it was a very large piece, probably about half the size of the Bob Marley. So, and those things are on my website. The website, I had said I only have 22 pieces in the show, but the website shows everything that I've done.
What is the website?
The website is tomnoll.com. I keep it simple. And on the website, in addition to the paintings, it shows all the snow sculptures that I did. Again, living in this nice climate, I had 14 years of snow sculpting, starting out with giant 8-foot tall blocks of snow and sculpting them into beautiful pieces of art, working with a 3-man team. We took first place in the Wisconsin State Championship 2 years in a row, and went on to the Nationals and took 3rd place in the Nationals. So, with winter being what it is in this area of the country, Wisconsin is very much like Omaha, a little colder, a little more snow, but it keeps you indoors. So winter months is really when I get a lot of my art done. And this whole rock series kind of really took off after I made the decision not to do the snow sculpting anymore. So now I had some warm winter projects to do. So
good. Do you have, this is my last question, a very memorable moment in your art career?
There have been many. I think bringing the art to the people and showing them my passion and seeing other people react to them and seeing people, having the conversation with people to the point where they realize there's something in them that they can bring out and produce is a very, very cool moment for me to realize that I've touched other people, which is why that point where people are getting back in contact with me is very cool. Just within this last week, I was getting photos of people from around the globe holding the card for this show. The first one arrived from Bursa, Turkey. And he says, boy, I wish I could get to the other side of the globe and see your show. And it was a picture of him holding the card. That kind of, that meant a lot. So I've received a number of those.
Good. I'd like to thank you for spending time with us and bringing your show to Metropolitan Community College. It looks great. Our students will love it.
Well, thank you. It's, again, it's been an honor to be here, and it was one more point in my career where I could focus on the artwork and bring it all together and look back at where did I come from, how did that schooling help me to get to this point, and here we are presenting it at the Metropolitan Community College.